Hugo, what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, I don't know. I think we're going to talk about light.
Yeah.
And black and white photography, and that's going to take us into films.
Good.
And we can maybe bring some crazy people in our conversations, like Karl Lagerfeld.
Whoa.
Some blondes, some redheads.
Where are you
Leo
going?
Tolstoy.
Oh my God!
Yeah?
I'm gonna find it hard to keep up with you this week.
No, just another cup of
Okay,
coffee.
and I know I like it, and the idea, and how light and photography are so intertwined and inextricably related. Good. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Well, That's a challenge. Let's go for it.
Off we go.
Come on.
Can I start with a quote? Because I do have a really
Go
good
on then.
quote. Because I think it's going to cover practically everything we're going to talk about. Amateurs worry about equipment. Professionals worry about money. Masters worry about light.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I thought you would.
But I was going to. It's interesting you say that because I was thinking because I knew we were talking about light today, so I almost reversed that in my head, and I thought when you get into photography, you just take available light and you do whatever, but you don't really know what you're doing. Then you sort of learn about it, and then you become a bit fearful that there's so much you have to learn, and then you quietly master it, and then you go beyond that and you don't care about light anymore, and you just make do with, even though you know a bit. Does that make any sense? You sort of go on a journey, and
there is definitely a journey, but I think what we all have to remember is that we do have incredible free access to the most beautiful light in the world, which is a north-facing window.
Yeah.
And that daylight.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, and I think we've touched on this before, is all we really ought to be doing in portrait photography, which is really what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
is recreating the beauty of natural light. And then what we do is we start off, because we haven't got the money or the equipment as amateurs to have any lights, so we start using daylight. Then we get a bit of equipment and a few lights, and we start making horrendous photographs until we begin to understand a bit more about what we're doing. And then when we sort of have mastered it, I certainly, and I know other photographers, crave just being able to use daylight because it is so beautiful.
But I think that's in a way that's what I was fumbling towards, that but by the end you kind of go back to where you started, but you have which we'll talk about today, I guess, the tricks we've learned along the way. Before we even get into that,
can I just say Rembrandt?
You can say it, but that's just the one word. That's it. No more. We'll come back to Rembrandt.
Yeah.
Photography from the Greek photographos.
Yeah.
Literally, graphos drawing, photo light.
Yeah.
Drawing, painting with light.
Absolutely.
And that's all it is. I mean, whatever photography you're into, you're basically using light to capture that picture.
Yeah. And it is interesting because, a lot of people have said these things beautifully in many ways, but there's something about, as a photographer, you're photographing the ordinary in extraordinary light. And that is what is making your photograph interesting.
Yes.
Because, again, everything's been photographed already, but it's the way you look at it and what light you use to make it extraordinary.
And I do want you to come back to Rembrandt, because I think the relationship, because I think it seems to me painters were forced to think about light in order to get their painting out, whereas we can stumble into it and learn about it. So we will come to that. Okay, so Rembrandt, what is it you're dying to tell me about Rembrandt?
Well, no, it's just so beautiful the way he used the available light.
Yeah.
And you can look at so many of his paintings and as a photographer just be in awe at his mastery of light, which is interesting because there was someone who said, in order to understand light, get up before sunrise and watch.
Lovely. And watch
and
it
that
changing.
actually is a really clever thing to do. I mean, in today's world, we don't have the time to do that. But, go into a room when it's dark, open all the windows and shutters, and then just watch how the light through the day changes and how it makes certain parts beautiful at different times.
Which I think we're slightly ill-served in the United Kingdom, at least. I always think we live under a Tupperware box most of the time. But if you go anywhere else abroad, it's even more stark, isn't it? The change of light across the day in a bright...
It is, because I lived for 2 years in sort of south of Normandy in France. And it was, throughout the sort of spring and summer, I kept on thinking I could see the paintings from the post-impressionist, from the impressionist era.
Yeah.
And basically what it was the Monets were painting what they could see. And the light just at that level of the earth is so different from what I'm used to in England or further down. And it's amazing. Wherever you are in the world, the light is unique.
As you've been talking about that, and I'm sort of imagining Rembrandt sitting there painting your portrait, say, and it occurs to me, look, it's a question really to you. Do you think that was the light at the moment they painted? Or do you think they knew what good light looked like and they just painted it? Do you see what I mean? In a sense, were they...
Well, that's the great thing about north light. You see, that it doesn't change. That's why they have those north-facing studio windows, because the sun doesn't come in directly, so the light you get is more constant than if you have it facing east or west or south.
But presumably the weather, if it's a cloudy day, can they still make that light perfect?
Well, there's an interesting thing about clouds. Can we talk about clouds?
Let's do it. Because in a way, the thing I'm fumbling around is whether they were essentially using an early version of Photoshop and just going, do you know what? I'll just make that look good.
No, I think they were using
what's there.
That's why north-facing studios became what they are.
Clouds.
What's really interesting about clouds is people go, oh God, it's a gloomy day for photography. But actually, it's a beautiful softbox. Professional photographers have these sort of umbrellas, and they put the silk on the front, and it softens the light. And that's basically what the clouds are doing to our sun.
Yeah.
So if you have direct sun, it's a bit like the face of the moon. You're either looking at white or you're looking at black.
Yeah.
Which is why we don't really like having people right in the sunshine, unless we're really mastering it, got it behind them, giving them a halo light, whatever. But we like to get them in the reflected light of the sun. So with clouds, you're basically having a softbox. Now, you still have to position the person carefully, because if you just take them straight outside, they're going to have hooded eyes and shadows in the wrong place. So you need to position them so that the light is sort of coming from, maybe put them in a doorway or under a sort of heavily leafed tree or close to the edge of a heavily leafed tree. So the light is softer, coming at an angle, because you want the light to come in at about 45 degrees, not 90 degrees from above their head. You want it to come in about 45 degrees. That's the most flattering.
But it does seem to me it's interesting when people spend a fortune on these modern electronic cameras and then put them on auto or program, and expect in those harsh lighting conditions it to be able to work out, and it's a nightmare. And it's why if people only learn two things about photography, how to use a camera, they should learn about shutter speed and aperture.
Yeah, with a manual camera.
Yeah,
it took me a while to work this one out, but so it's an overcast day. I actually look out of the window at the moment. It's cloud. That's what you can see. Now, if it's a blue sky and a cloud comes along and covers the sun for a bit and then moves on, you really notice that difference.
Yeah.
But just because we can only see clouds doesn't mean it's the same thickness of cloud everywhere.
Right.
So when you're photographing on an overcast day, you have to keep a sharp eye on how bright it is, because there may be a cloud above the cloud above the clouds between the sun, and suddenly it goes much darker, and then it'll go lighter again. But our eyes automatically adjust, and we think it's just overcast all day. But actually, you know how you can get sunburnt on overcast days? That's because it's a thin layer of
So
cloud.
you're telling me that the Tupperware box that they put over the whole of the UK may in fact, in some places, be 2 or 3 Tupperware boxes?
Exactly.
Okay, so we need to measure that. That's really good. So what I was going to say about it as well is, if you have got a very bright day, and you haven't got clouds to soften that light, which I love the way you're describing that as a sort of natural softbox, is you can use other things to filter that light, either natural things like trees or that break the light, which gives you a softer light, but also you can just let light shine through sheets or material or things to artificially create what we would spend quite a lot of money on as a softbox in a studio, which is
it's really lovely on a big window to literally hang a thin bed sheet.
Give you much softer.
But it depends. You're going to photograph a man or a woman. Because if you're photographing a man, actually, it'd be more fun to have the harshness.
Yeah.
and you get the craggy details of character.
Yeah.
But with a woman, you want a softer glow.
I've told you before, haven't I? How some men have objected to the craggy way I photograph them. But I totally agree with that.
I'm just remembering early on. I mean, I think daylight is king, and when I said that before, it was rather like you'd sat on an electric cable.
In terms of my reaction to it.
Yes, you're like, really?
No. Yes, you're probably right. So a little resentment grew in me because I sort of started my sort of aspirations as a photographer were led by Donovan and Bailey and people who were very much studio led. So that was what I wanted to become. Is the people who were. But actually, the more, and I think that's the thing I meant about the journey at the beginning. The more I learnt about it, the less frightening lighting was, and the less I was interested in the technical side, and the more I was really trying to recreate. It was because we didn't have good natural light that I needed to be in a studio. But let's look at it from the other side, because you've now talked about softening light when it's very harsh, but of course the other side is to enhance it and to bring in more light than you have. And again, you don't have to be precious about this. You can use tin foil.
But the thing is, what I think a big mistake is with reflectors, which I adore and rely on. People make a really simple mistake, and the way to exaggerate this by talking in extremes. Imagine the reflector is actually a handheld torch.
Yeah.
If you hold the reflector here, imagine what you'd look like if you held a torch under your face. It's basically spooky lighting.
Yeah.
Because it's so unnatural to have this part of your face lit and this part. It's just spooky. So you have to use a reflector very carefully. Think of it as a torch.
Yeah.
Where would you like that? Now, it becomes difficult because you think, okay, well, I want the torch at sort of 45 degrees, but if I hold it at 45 degrees, the sun's never going to hit the reflector. So you have to slightly use a little bit of common sense. Okay, how do I get the sun to come down and bounce, because that's what we like, off the reflector at 45 degrees.
Yeah. You just said something really simple there, which is probably worth repeating, because you're talking about the angle at which the light... This is so simple, it's sort of GCSE physics, but light travels in straight lines, and the angle at which it will bounce off at the angle it comes in at, and it's really simple. And if they imagine it as a mirror, and then they can use anything to fill in. But one of the cheapest accessories anybody can buy above and beyond the camera is one of those reflectors. You know, the ones that fold up into a little circle thing, and you can get them so they have a silver reflector, a gold reflector, a white reflector. Yeah. They're so cheap and so helpful if you're just trying to make a nicer portrait using natural light.
I'm going to take you onto a new path really quickly. Do you mind?
Please do.
The angle of the light.
Yeah.
It's quite a good time to talk about most people talk about the golden hour, but there is the golden hour and the blue hour. Now, they generally get slotted into one, but the blue hour is in the morning, and the golden hour is in the evening.
You're teaching me something now.
And partly, and don't again quote me scientifically on this, but the golden hour is golder because there's so much stuff in the air diffusing the light and adding that gold colour to it.
Is that why?
Whereas in the morning, after a cool night, the light is much purer and it's a bluer, cleaner light. So when you're doing garden photography, it's amazing to watch the blue hour. It's life enhancing, actually. The problem is, you wait for the light to come through between those trees and hit that grass or whatever, and then suddenly there's like 35 different pictures you want to take, and you haven't got yourself organised, and then it's gone.
Well, I imagine
because if you, sorry, I'm just going to carry on with it. And then between the blue hour and the golden hour, the sun is right above your head. Yeah. And the thing is, what happens is the light's coming down like that and bouncing straight back up. So everything looks slightly washed out. You go into a beautiful garden in the middle of the day and everything is sort of washed out. But if you come when the sun is there or there, he said, for the listeners, I'm pointing at 45 degrees to my left or my right, your eye is catching the full intensity of the rose, the blade of grass, the oak tree, or whatever it is.
Which we should come back to portraiture because a similar thing applies as well. But in gardening, I imagine, and I have hardly ever photographed gardens. I did Rosemary Veery's once, but essentially, I imagine the plants are really different as well, because they are responding to the sun at different times of the day as well.
Of the day, although we've mastered our camera, doesn't matter what sort of camera it is, and we've begun to understand the science of light, the photograph isn't going to be worth anything if the photographer cannot portray the emotion that he is seeing. And the viewer is never going to like that photograph if he doesn't get any emotion. So at the end of the day, everything we're talking about is great, but you have to get emotion into the picture.
In a portrait or in anything.
I think in anything, you know, that photograph that we discussed, it's the staircase.
André Kertész.
Yeah. That photograph of a staircase and a vase and a doorway.
Yes.
It's filled with emotion. It is. It triggers emotion in the viewer.
I was thinking about this. I was thinking that everyone takes photographs.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone can take a photograph.
Yeah.
Some people have an eye.
Yeah.
So now we've cut that down a bit. And I do believe that, and maybe we should return to that question, but I believe some people just have an eye and some don't.
Yeah.
So that's cut it down. But then for portraiture, and I don't know whether you're counting that, because I take your point that everything can be a portrait, but for portraiture, you also need an extra thing, which cuts down the number of people who can do it again, which is that ability to connect, the emotional connection, I think. So there's this weird thing where everyone can take a photograph. Some people are quite good at it. And then you minimize it even further when you get to portraiture. I think to be discussed. But
that's anyway.
Where do you think the
Are we
emotion-
talking about light or emotion? I think I slightly took you down the wrong path.
yeah, but there is masses of light in that photograph. The way he's used light and the way he's divided up. But what? Just before you move on back to light, what do you mean by the emotion in that? I mean, clearly it's conjuring up some emotion in you. But what do you feel he's done? Where's the emotion come in that staircase?
Who's he? Oh, right.
André Kertész.
It probably, in me, triggers childhood memories, glimpses of the past. Maybe it makes me remember a smell, just walking through, catching a similar staircase and table and cupboard or whatever. And that's where the emotion kicks in. But we're not exclusive custodians of light. I'm going to quickly give you two names, Karl Lagerfeld and Leo Tolstoy.
Leo Tolstoy?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said, all the beauty of life is made up of light and shadow.
Really? And he's not talking metaphorically. He means literally. He doesn't mean kind of good and bad and light and dark in that way.
I think he probably does.
Yeah. Well, then you're cheating.
Well, no, because I think he also is talking about. I think he's using a very, everything.
Yeah.
Isn't that what he says?
Right.
All the beauty in life.
Is that not about contrast, in a way? Good, bad, evil. No?
Might be.
Yeah. Okay. And Karl Lagerfeld.
I have to quote this from memory, so
Okay.
Apologies for maybe fouling it up. But he said something along the lines of, black and white always looks modern, whatever the word modern means. Well, the thing is, he's talking about fashion, obviously, and clothes, and I think he's probably right.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that actually he's talking about black and white. I'm thinking black and white photography. And I think to a degree you can take that in there. I did say we're not exclusive custodians of light. So maybe Karl Lagerfeld quote was in the wrong place. But you get my point.
Yeah, I do. And interestingly, on my way here, I was thinking about black and white photography. And this is all to do with light in a sense. But I wondered whether it's true of you. I see the world in photographic terms. I see it in black and white.
Yeah.
And how it's lit, how the light works in black and white. I don't see it in colour.
Yeah, I got to ask a question. I so love talking about black and white.
Yeah.
Can we sort of drop light and move into black and white now?
Come on then.
So can Karl have been our segue?
Yeah, well, I think it's beautiful. Because
I could talk about light forever, but black and white I get really excited about.
Well, and they're not unrelated, are they?
No,
because black and white, in a sense, reduces it down to lights and darks. That's it. That's all you got now.
Yeah.
You got a scale from black to white.
But another thing that you wanted to question me on was, I wish I could remember him or her who said, in photography, colour is everything, black and white is more.
Yeah.
It's so great, that, as far as I'm concerned.
But do you do the same thing? So if I was riding my bicycle here today and I'm looking at stuff, but photographically, I'm simply seeing, would that work in black and white, and how will that light work?
Yeah.
And I don't, the color, it has to be, there's very rare occasions on which I look at it in color. Yeah. And it almost has to be, in a sense, black and white is two colors, let's call it, even though there's shades in between. Yeah. But for me, color photography has to be green and blue and red, or something quite simple. If you have all the colors of reality, it ceases to interest me. It becomes a modern Polaroid of nothingness. Do you ever see, when you're looking at whether something's a good photograph, do you see it in black and white, or do you see? Because you shoot mostly black and white.
No, I tell you what, it's so interesting because I can remember when I started out being a photographer, someone told me that while I was excited about it in my youth, I'd probably get bored of it.
Get over yourself.
Yeah, but now I'm certainly getting on, and I still find it absolutely fascinating, the whole thing of photography and the whole thing of colour versus black and white. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I definitely started my life buying the cheapest film, which is black and white film, putting it in my camera, developing it at home, which is completely doable. And colour was expensive, and developing it and printing it meant a whole new set of chemicals and lights and God knows what else. So I learned through black and white. And I do love it. I absolutely adore it. And I can just, I'd love to give you quote after quote after quote on it, because it just, people sum it up. So, but then when we moved into the digital world, basically everything gets shot in colour. Yeah. And then it's your decision to make it into black and white, if you want to. And I find that I still put a lot into black and white.
Me too.
But modern technology does make playing with the colour a lot easier and a lot more fun.
Yeah.
The problem I have is this compulsion to oversaturate everything, to put auto, high definition, blah 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 blah. And yes, it looks fun, but it doesn't get you, because you sort of know it's been overdone. So it's a mastery of colour has always been a mastery thing, because colour photographs date so quickly. I can show you two photographs, one in colour and one black and white, from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, go on through, and you will always tell me which decade the colour ones came out from, and you will have difficulty telling me where the black and white ones came from.
I also think the great colour photographers, of whom I think there are very few, are using colour quite sparsely. In a sense, they've deliberately chosen it because they've restricted it to 4 or 5. But can I ask you another question? Because I think this plays into my worldview of photography, which is the effect of movies on this. At one point in my photography career, I started to study the way film lighting people work, because that's what was really inspiring me, the kind of black and white contrasty stuff of those early Westerns and stuff, which I just find stunningly beautiful. And I wanted to know how they lit it rather than how photographers lit stuff. And
the thing about black and white gives you the opportunity to paint your own colours into a picture. Now I'm going backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
There's a documentary on Netflix which I've been watching called Churchill at War.
Right.
And it's 4 seasons.
They've recoloured it.
And they've recoloured a lot of the black and white footage.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, because while black and white is fabulous, I don't know that the entire series would have been so watchable if it had all been in black and white, because it would have been like, I don't know, it's like, it was so long ago. Yeah. Whereas bringing the colour onto it makes it suddenly parts of it more real.
Yeah. So Hugo, I have a question. If you were trying to distill all of your years of experience and knowledge about lighting down into a quick kind of recommendation, it seems to me, you basically look at 3, you'd say have 3
Get
lights.
The question. I'm getting
how many lights? How many lights? And what would they be?
Okay, so
and they don't have to be professional lights.
No, but always that thing. There is one sun, so you should have one main light.
Good, tick.
Anything else that you have could just be a reflector. If it happens to be a light, it shouldn't be used with more power than a reflector.
Good.
That's my portrait.
So that's
sort of
2 lights.
Yeah.
And then maybe...
Sometimes a halo light behind.
Yeah, something maybe in the background, I was going to say. So really lighting, just to keep everything really simple, it can be really, really simple. You probably need a minimum of maybe 2, can get away with 1 if you're lucky, maximum of 3.
Yeah.
But then the question is, how do you arrange those to get rid of shadows and to make sure you're highlighting the bits you want and you know, you can see the eyes clearly and all the rest of it? Do you
This
have
is a question about eyes.
Aye.
Well, funnily enough, I think, I don't know why I'm being inspired by where I'm sitting right now, because we're sitting in a room which has a really beautiful, large Georgian window with 9 huge panes of glass in the top section and the bottom. Oh, no, 6 and 6. Now, if you had someone sitting just inside this room and you as a photographer were outside, the light would be incredible for many reasons, but I'm going to try and explain quickly. First of all, the darkness of this room would have beautiful shadowing effect on their cheeks, and the light coming in from the sky and from the height of those windows would put these beautiful highlights in their eyes. So no lights, no backup, nothing.
Just that.
Just daylight coming in, but the person standing within the shadows to give beautiful definition.
Do you know which way that window is facing?
It's definitely not north.
Yeah.
But right now, with that amount of cloud cover, it could be north. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think if I answered the question or not.
No, you have. But if let's imagine it wasn't as perfect as that, and you needed to highlight a bit of, because one of the things that I think we're both saying is you need some variation and contrast in the portrait. Otherwise, it's boring if it's just all flat.
Yeah.
And you remember that one we talked about with Al Pacino where I messed up the shoot, but actually at the end of the day, the sun fell halfway across his face, and we just used that to create that really stark contrast. But are there ways you would, if this light wasn't as perfect as it is today, what tricks or tips would you use to enhance the bits you wanted to see more of or
I definitely, I mean, if I, there's a thing between just taking the shot, or is the person prepared to give you a little bit of time and pander to your sort of...
note to Kevin Spacey on that. Are you prepared to give them a bit of time, Kevin? Yes, sorry. As you were, Hugo, as you were.
Yeah, no, I mean, the white sheet or even newspaper, funny enough, sometimes just kicks. What I know you've mentioned this a few times, I just want to slightly temper it. Tinfoil and mirrors are risky because they give such harsh, definitive reflections. But the reverse side of tinfoil, the slightly dull side of tinfoil, is nicer. Yeah,
and to your point, you don't want to be doing that with direct sunlight. It's when you've got a very dull day and you're trying to enhance, particularly. I remember Heather Small and Joan Collins.
He's so good at dropping them in there.
Both portraits were totally enhanced just by one of those simple, cheap, round reflectors and natural light.
So who did you just drop in there? Heather Small.
So I was told with Joan Collins.
And Jane Collins.
That
I'm going to drop in Henri Matisse. Okay. How about that? But he said, I've been 40 years discovering that the queen of all colours is black.
Good.
Not black and white, but black. Which is interesting, isn't it? That's
amazing.
Because you can imagine a portrait of someone in a dark room, side-lit by a window, and you're basically just picking up a fraction of their face in the light, and basically the picture is black. And it would be very powerful.
Hugo, it's been really good talking about light. I have learnt a lot from you.
And black and white.
And black and white, but you do that every week.
So, know my thing.
Yeah.
Colour is everything. Black and white is more.
Right. Well,
so
why don't we do this in black and white?
Yeah, let's do it.